Hello bookworms! So today I'm coming to you with my September reading wrap up, and these are all the physical book I own, but I'm also gonna talk about the other books that I took out from the library. So I'm gonna start with the ones I own, and then I'll go through the other ones and I'll put up like their book covers. I think I'm just gonna go with chronologically, kind of. There's no real themes or other logic in that. Like, I'm not doing favorite to least, especially because I have a lot of audiobooks too, so it'll be too complicated. So the first one is The Rain Heron by Arnott. This is a 4.5 read. I absolutely enjoyed it. I read it for one of my reading vlogs that you can check out somewhere, and it was such a nice surprise. So I was in a kick of dystopian reads, like focusing on environment, and this is the one that was the least at the forefront. This was more about these characters surrounding this Rain Heron who's like magical, almost mystical. So we follow the characters around this creature, and it was so beautifully written. I was enthralled in the first chapter, like the part 0, that's what they call it, and I was right away hooked. Amazing writing. This is an Australian author, and yeah, definitely makes me think that I need to read more Australian authors because I really love this writing. And yes, definitely recommend it if you're looking for a dystopian but where it's not the main focus. And I feel like it's almost a small portion of what would happen in a dystopian world, which is very close to reality. So it's not out there, it's not fantasy sci-fi. I would say it's more magical realism in the sense of there's this Rain Heron, but it's not in any other place. Like that's the only magical realism you find in this book. So if you want like just a little bit of it and you're not a fan of like too much magical realism, this could be it. And yes, just beautiful book. Absolutely recommend it. The next one I read for the same vlog actually was The Land of Milk and Honey by Zhang, and this is a 3-star. This is a 3-star because I felt like it was a disservice for me to read it right after the other one, and I don't think it's the author's fault. The writing was good, but I think it's the way the story was constructed that really took me out. So we have, and also the character. So the character is in her like beginning 30s, and honestly I was like waiting to connect with her. Like, she's having like a life crisis, which makes sense because she's a chef, and then she, you know, the world is flooding and the fires and everything, and so food is a lot more sparse, and as a chef, of course, it means like her life dream is kind of crumbling apart until she got this job, which is with these rich people and to cook for them, and then she is back in this very luxurious and luscious food world. I don't know, I feel like the character felt a little meh for me. I couldn't connect to her a lot. I feel like her reasoning for a lot of things were very childish, and then I think the only background we got from her were almost excusing her actions and not to give, like, it's kind of like telling you that she has some depth and that those are the reasons behind her decisions, but it doesn't show her making those connections. It's just telling you in between like scenes, like, this is, you know, this is her past, and then we continue in the same tone, and I just don't think I don't think it made the character seem that developed, and I don't think there was a lot of character development actually through this book, which was also a miss for me. Anyways, if you want to read more about my thoughts, I definitely invite you to check out the reading vlog where I go more like in details about it. But yeah, this was like a 3-star. I wouldn't not recommend it. I would check out more of the author's book, just because I'm curious, because I had picked it up on like some very good recommendations that I heard from like some booktubers, So yeah, like I'm still curious, but it's a bit of a disappointing because I was really expecting to love this and it didn't really hit the mark for me. The next one I read, so I wanted a little break, so I read Symptômes by Catherine Ocelot. And this was an interesting graphic novel. I'm just gonna show you a little bit of the imagery. It's a lot of conversations. So this is almost like autobiographical because you follow this character who's Catherine Ocelot and kind of how she deals with a lot of her thought process and her anxiety, depression, and in this group that she joins. So you kind of have a glimpse with that group of all of them and their different kind of issues, their anxiety and their scare. And what was fun is to read how they all had a bit of a unusual coping mechanism. So for example, one of hers is that thinking that the Grey's Anatomy cast as the characters are like with her all the time, and so she kind of feels safe because she watches so much Grey's Anatomy and she's so attached to the characters that it's as if they would tell her what would happen medically speaking or like help her in the situation. It's very particular. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a nice break. I would give it like a 3.5 because it was enjoyable. Like it's weird to rate it because I feel like it's very close to her life and what she's been going through. So I'm not judging her life or anything, but as far as the way the story was constructed, sometimes it took me out of it a little bit. It was okay. I enjoyed it. I would recommend you picking it up if you want to read a graphic novel about like mental health and mental health issues, but also not just the negative of it, because the group is kind of tightly knit and at the end it's very nice to see how they learn about each other and they end up being supportive about each other's situation, and not just in the group but outside of that group moment. So yeah, if you want something that has a bit of positive too, and it's not about judging those, you know, weird coping mechanisms or like weird tics you might have, like this is very accepting of all those mental health issues you could have. So yes, I would definitely recommend you picking up if you want that kind of. The next one I read was Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. So this is the second one in the, is it My Heart is a Chainsaw trilogy or the Jade Daniels trilogy? I'm not sure how it's called. But yeah, so it's part of this trilogy. This is the second one. I won't spoil anything because it is a second one. But I will say you follow Jade after a few years after what happened. I won't tell you more than that. And yeah, this has the same vibes. I think it's slightly different in the sense that you follow a lot more POVs than you did in the first one. In the first one, it was like mainly her. And then this one you follow actually many POVs, but I think it was well done. I have to say it's an arc, but I actually read it in audiobook format because I had it in the library and I wanted an audiobook. And I have to say I got confused a little bit towards the 3/4 of the book where like things were getting like muddled a bit, the story. And I think it was on purpose, like it's just a me thing. I don't think I was concentrated, but at some point it was happening so fast that on audiobook format, I feel like I missed some parts and then I didn't know until when to go back to like really get it. So anyways, I got it at the end because, you know, there's like they explain it and everything, but yeah, I was like very confused, which made me even more like on the edge of my seat with this book. So like an extra perk, you know, that's like good mystery thriller. And yeah, I'm really enjoying. I like the character growth we have from Jade after all these years that post My Heart is a Chainsaw. And yeah, I have the third one on audiobook. So I also had the arc, but I mean, I enjoyed the audiobook narrator, so I might as well just finish the trilogy as like on audiobook. So I think I'm gonna read it for the month of October. I feel like it's the perfect moment, you know, we're still having the references, all the talks about like all the horror movies and everything, and I feel like it's even deeper, because in the other one it was just her talking about it, and now it's like other people mentioning it. So it's like, it's funny to see how it transpired to other people being obsessed with horror movies and the references and everything. So yes, would definitely recommend this trilogy if you like those kind of mystery thriller, lots of horror references, a bit like Scary Movie, like it's very self-aware, and I think that's like half the fun of it. So yes, definitely a trilogy. You could start now, you know, spooky season and everything. The next book I read it for Latinx Heritage Month, so I won't review it too much here. Like I'm gonna give you the link so you can check out my reading vlogs where I go more like in details. But the one I read, the first one is Là où je me terre by Caroline Dawson. I think in English is As the Andes Disappeared. So it's translated if you want to check it out. This is a favorite. This is a 4.5. Absolutely loved it. It's very biased because I feel like it's very close to my experience. So I feel like if you enjoy first-gen immigration, and you know, specifically if you, your family, or you know people who have, like, and if it's stories that you like, you would really enjoy it. And especially if you immigrated in like Montreal or Quebec, you would get the references. And she writes and a little, I don't know how it's translated. I guess it doesn't apply in translation, but in French you can like really read how the Quebecism that she has. Definitely loved it. What did I say, 4.5? Maybe on almost 5 stars. Truly enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it. I tabbed it a lot because there was a lot of moments I really enjoyed and could relate to and whatnot. So yes, that's the first one I read for the Latinx Heritage Month. Then the second one I read is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. I hate that I waited so long to read it because it was such a nice YA book. Again, I go more in depth and details in my reading vlog, but this like 4.5, really enjoyed it, so fun. I love the characters, got really attached to Yadriel and another character, I won't say more. But it was so sweet, and I have like 2 tabs towards the end because this just was the sweetest little moments between these kids, and they're so cute. Like I felt like such an auntie because I was like, little babies, you know, they're 16 and they're going through so much. And it's, you know, Yadriel is a trans boy, so he has to deal not only with the fact that his family, they're brujos and brujas, and it's very separated between men and women, but also like in general in Latin America, it's still very frowned upon, and some families, they're very closed about the subject, like even now. So I feel like to have like this even deeper roots in like the separation of men and women, and for him to like find a place through that with his family and not like against his family was very like, it was hard to read at the beginning because they like dead name him a lot and like use the wrong pronouns and everything. But I think the journey that he did was very important, even for him to like self-acceptance also. So highly recommend this one. I haven't read a YA in a while, so yes, this was very enjoyable. Then the other one I read is This Is Not Miami by Fernanda Melchor. So these are short stories. They're based on real events, or at least stories that she has heard, and then she writes them in a way that's like not a dry nonfiction. So it's very readable, and I really enjoyed it. Like, it's very focused on Veracruz, and the themes I would say are like, you know, drugs and gangs and everything. There's a bit of spookiness in it. So yes, this is a version of reality is stranger than fiction. That's what I would call it. It's kind of that category of stories. And yeah, I would highly recommend it. I really like her stories. I enjoyed this one more than her other one, Paradis, although that one got a lot of buzz because it's just so unhinged. I feel like this is a nice balance. Like, the stories can be a little unhinged, but it's less so. Like, the other one was just way out of my comfort zone, and this is like just the level that I enjoy. So yeah, really enjoyed it. And then the last physical book that I have is Ce qui es-tu by Caroline Dawson. This is a poetry collection. So they're letters that she writes to her 7-year-old son, and we span, again, this one is in my reading blog. Like all the last ones, like I really focused on my reading blog, and this one is more of a 3-star, but then I go more in details in it because yeah, poetry and me is like, it's a weird relationship. I really enjoy some poetry collections, but sometimes they're just not for me, and it's not the author's fault, it's just preference. And in this case, yeah, there was a big chunk that was just not my preference of types of poetry out there. So yeah, it's a 3. It's unfortunate. I really wanted to love it, and I did love the first half, and there's like a big arc of poems that I really enjoyed. But yeah, I would say it's a 3-star. Like if you really like poetry, I would recommend it. But if you're like me and you're like a bit lukewarm about it, maybe get it at the library. I think it's best. And look, it's so short, you could definitely read it. Those are my physical books. Now we go for the audiobook. The first audiobook that I read is Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and this is a completely different one. The other ones, like, she really does a variety of genres, and this one is like a thriller noir kind of story, and I think she did super well. I really enjoyed it. This was a 4-star for me. It was so enjoyable because there was also mixed in a lot of like movie references and like video film editing references, which now that I'm starting to edit, I feel like I could really enjoy and appreciate it maybe even more. So yeah, I really like the audiobook. I like the audiobook narrator, so if you want to go that avenue, I would definitely recommend it. And yes, it was a nice story. I really enjoyed it. I'm so far have not been disappointed by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. She really holds up to her title as like an amazing author. I think I do have another one from her, and yeah, but I still have like quite a few before like even catching up to her backlist. So yeah, definitely an author to check out if you're curious about like a Latina author. The next audiobook I read was The Saint of Bright Doors by Vajra Chandrasekera. I apologize for the pronunciation. And this was hard. This was hard. To me, there's a 3-star. Again, not the fault of the author, completely me. Because when I started it, I thought it would be like fantasy, but not high fantasy. And somehow it's like urban fantasy, but like way deeper than I thought it would be. At the beginning, it's fine. Like I really enjoyed it and I was really like following through. But then the more I went into the story, the more I thought I was like missing something, because surface level, it felt very okay. But I felt like I was missing something. And so I was curious, and I rarely do this, but I went through some of the reviews that I saw. I read in the review that you'd have to have knowledge of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. And honestly, it's not something I know a lot about. I actually don't know anything about Buddhism in Sri Lanka. Like, it's very specific, and I just haven't had the chance to read anything non-fiction about it, or read, or like listen, or like watch, or whatever. So yeah, it kind of clicked that that's what I was missing. Like, that's really the piece that would have made me enjoy this like story even more. And it's not that I didn't enjoy it, it's just because I was so confused and missing a lot of things. It was just okay and convoluted a little bit for nothing, and a bit long. Honestly, that was a very long audiobook. I think it could have been edited down. But again, that's in my opinion, where I'm not like I wasn't aware of the references. So maybe if you're aware of the references, it all makes sense to you that it was this long with that many back and forth and everything. But for me, I just didn't have it. Yeah, it sucks. I was like kind of excited to enjoy like a very like intense fantasy, and it was not it for me. So yeah, it was a 3-star. But it's okay. The next one I actually read as an ebook, and it's just because I wanted a cute Halloween-y book. Is Benita and the Night Creatures by Mariana Llanos. and it was really cute. Sometimes I read a children's book like that just because they're so wholesome and they're so cute. And this is what I wanted. I wanted a spooky, wholesome, cute book, and that's exactly what it was. And what was cute even more was that the creature are like this mythical Latinx creatures, and she even explains them at the end, like she presents the monsters. It's super cute. I don't know if anyone with kids watches these videos, but if you do, that would be a really cute Halloween book to get your kid. The next book I read on an audiobook is The Great Divide by Cristina Henriquez. And again, in the vlog that I'm posting tomorrow, you'll have more details about it because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the writing. It's my first Cristina Henriquez, but there was something about the story that either maybe it was my expectations that I put on the book that made me like it less, because I like the second half more. The first half, we had like all these characters presented to us. First of all, I think it was too many. I don't think that meant that. I think we could have edited down a few characters, or at least one or two. And then there's this awful character that appears 3 times, and I remember because I absolutely hated that character, that just ruined it every time. Like every time that I would hear his like chapter, I was like just hoping it was the quickest, shortest chapter, and they were, thank God, because it was insufferable. And then the other ones at the beginning were a bit meh, and then the ones that I really enjoyed, the characters, so we have Ada and Oscar, those kind of pick up more space and they kind of relate to other characters, so you kind of still following them but on the outskirts, so it was like, okay, it's fine. But yeah, I don't know, I thought I would enjoy it more. I think it was too many white people point of views for a book about the Panama Canal. But then I get it, you know, it's because of them. They were there, so of course we have to have those point of views, as annoying and blah as they were. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it was just not what I was expecting. But again, not the writer's fault, like that's the book they wanted to write, and again, I have no qualms about the writing, so it's not about a writing issue either. So if you're interested in the story still, like, you should definitely pick it up. I'm personally still gonna read a Cristina Henriquez because I have one of her book, The Book of Unknown Americans. Like, that's the first book I had heard about her, and I have it. I physically own it. I just really wanted an audiobook, and I thought, you know, like, they're so unrelated, I can definitely start with this one and then read the other one. And it is what I'm gonna do. It's just yeah, maybe that one kind of hits more the spot than this one did for me personally. Then the last one that I read, and actually the last one I read, not just audiobook but in general, like I finished it yesterday, is Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshig Rice, and that was a 4.25. I really enjoyed it. I think I should have read it in like November, like it would have been the perfect moment, because it's all like in winter, but you kind of see like it really starts at like very beginning. It's getting super cold and they know like winter's coming.
Winter's coming.
But yeah, you follow from that moment on. And then I know it says, I think I saw while I was reading my book that it's dystopian. I think it has the vibe of a dystopia, but I don't think it's meant necessarily as a dystopia. Maybe it is, maybe I just missed that part, but I feel like it was, so the whole story spans through the winters and things get like worse and worse, and I feel like it's more dystopian in the sense of like a zombie apocalypse. There's no zombies, but I mean like they usually start with like people panicking, how normal people react in like those situations, and I think that's what it did. Like, it's that part of the story where people are like slowly losing it and like slowly kind of getting scared, and like people are dying, and it's just scaring everyone even more, and things are scarce and people get violent, and like it's, you know, it's that kind of crescendo that's classic zombie movie. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Love the writing. I really love the characters too. I enjoyed that the main point of view we have is this man who is married and has 2 kids, and it was really sweet that the family aspect was just accepted, that they were good. Like there wasn't the main issue in the story, you know, as there is sometimes, you know, it's strained with the family or whatever. In this story, I think it was nice to hear like how much of a good team him and his wife were, and when handling the kids and helping the community, and then taking it on their parents, like each of their parents, and then their siblings. And it was really beautiful. I like the sense of community that specifically surrounding that characters you saw. And then of course, you know, like it's that small town, but it's still a town, so there's like thousands of people. And of course it's not the case for everyone, but it was nice to at least have that. Even though everything's going a bit too, you can still have safe space, you know. So it was nice. I like that aspect. I like the spookiness, the eeriness, like the more you went in the story. Would definitely recommend it. So I read it yesterday. Like yesterday was September 30th, National Day for Reconciliation and Truth. So I really wanted to read an Indigenous book. So I read this one, and I actually started the Rez Sisters, which I finished this morning. And I'll mention it here, I think, a little bit, just because I'm scared that I'll forget it in my October wrap up. I really enjoyed it. The Rez Sister is a play. So I have it here. It's by Tomson Highway. It was a nice play. I enjoyed it enough. I think I would definitely would have liked it more if I saw it in an actual play, I think, because I think the colorfulness of the characters didn't shine through enough for me in this format. But again, it's a play, so it makes sense. I think in a play, like if I was actually watching one, it would come across. And yeah, if you like, you know, those kind of small town, but also like in like very small family, and they're all like sisters or like half sisters, and they all talk to each other like very bluntly, and it's kind of funny. And it ranges from I think the oldest has 59, and then the youngest like 31 maybe. So there's like a big range, and honestly it was funny. It was like a drama comedy. I would recommend it if you want to check it out. But yeah, this one I read October 1st, so it's like it's here, but I'll try to mention it also in my October wrap up. But so yeah, just to say that yesterday, for that day, I tried to read like solely Indigenous authors, and this one does not mention those schools, but it does. The author did go to one of those Reformation schools, so yes, I think it was still important to read from this author. And for the other one, it is mentioned, especially because of the couple really wants the kids to learn the language, and so they're taking it upon themselves to teach, because you know in the school they kind of do, but because of what's happening and everything, like they don't go to school anymore at some point. And it does come back to like it's not their parents' fault or their grandparents' fault, of course, because of that happened, because of course they were taking away, and like until not that long ago it was seen as like illegal almost to speak that and not French or English. So yeah, it is mentioned. I think that's why it's important also to read those Indigenous authors and those novels, because somehow like it happened throughout so much of Canada that it affected the author, or at least someone the author knows, and you can kind of see it sometimes in the stories. And it's important to remember, and it's important to just accept and actually do better, like do better truly, which that's another topic. I'm not gonna go political here, but a little bit, like it's I think so. I think there should be some kind of reparations there, like without going too in details, but maybe a video for another day. So yes, so yesterday I wore my only orange short that I have. Like I don't have a lot of orange in my wardrobe, so I wore that to like my one meeting I had at work, because you know you're just still doing a little bit of my part reading this, and ow, and recommending these. So I did also an Instagram post, so you know, sharing other books that I really enjoyed. If you want to go check out my Instagram. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up my September reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll try to edit it so it's like very short. Like I cannot do a video so far that's not 30 minutes or longer, but I'm really gonna try. And if you enjoyed this, you can comment what was your favorite book that you read in September. And if you like this content and want more, you can always subscribe. And on that, have a happy reading and take care. No estoy pendiente a lo que tú estás haciendo, que yo no la estoy rompiendo, yeah. Tú mismo